How has online dating worked for you? Back in 2016, I created an anonymous Twitter account as a place to blow off steam and rant about things I didn't want my current or future employers seeing. Wasn't looking to make friends and definitely wasn't looking for romance. But one day another anonymous DM'd me one of my tweets with a message like, "Oh my god, yes, I totally agree with this." We started talking about random topics and hit it off immediately. Over the next few weeks, we talked on the phone a lot, FaceTimed every night, and before either of us realized what was happening, we were falling in love. People will argue whether you can fall in love with someone you've met, but I can tell you that it's absolutely possible. One minor problem. I lived in South Georgia at the time, and she lived over 1,000 miles away in Chicago. Another minor problem. Both of our parents were absolutely opposed to us dating and did everything they could to keep us apart. She was a freshman in college, and I was a sophomore at the time, and both of us were still living at home. So that became a challenge. If you thought a long-distance relationship was hard, try having a long-distance relationship in secret. Her parents wouldn't let me visit her, and every time we'd try to plan a trip to meet up, things would fall through. After about 7 months of waiting, I did the craziest thing I've ever done. I got on a plane and flew to Chicago without telling anyone where I was going or telling her that I was coming. I called her from the O'Hare airport and nearly gave her a heart attack. Her parents somehow agreed to let her come see me after loading her purse with mace and pepper spray. And we spent an incredible few days laughing together and falling more in love than we thought possible. Amazed that I would go to that much effort to date their daughter, her parents eventually relented and gave us their blessing. We continued to date long distance, and in September 2018, I dropped to one knee in the Chicago waterfront and asked her to marry me. She said yes, and made me the luckiest man alive. Fast forward to May 2019. I packed up my life and drove 14 hours straight with my golden retriever to start a new life in Chicago with a girl I love. Adjusting to Chicago has been a challenge for this diehard southerner, but it's worth it. I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. The stars align and fate brings an incredible woman into your life. You don't give up on her just because she lives 1,000 miles away. Parents trying to keep them apart? Sounds like a real-life Romeo and Juliet, but with a much happier ending and without the tragic poisoning. Story 2. I was skeptical about it, but I swiped aggressively, both left and right, for 2 weeks, hoping something would work out. Ended up that after 3 weeks I had a date, with 2 separate girls. Saturday and one Sunday. Saturday flaked the morning off, claiming to be too hungover to make it. Mind you, this was 10 hours before the agreed time, so I was not impressed. I was cool about it, though, and said we could reschedule for later in the week. Second girl messaged me that afternoon asking if I wanted to meet that night instead. I said yes, absolutely, thinking, hey, that's pretty neat. So we agreed to meet at a restaurant of her choosing, and I showed up 5 minutes early. Get there and there's a private event that's closed to the public. So now I'm thinking this is quite a curveball. I wonder if I will have to pretend to know someone at their private corporate event. It wasn't that, though. She just didn't know about the private event. So we went somewhere else. Been seeing her for over a month now, and it's going great. Sure, there are plenty of horror stories, but really my personal opinion is that even if you have 9 bad dates, it only takes one for it all to turn around. I may have gotten lucky. It is still early. But even if I hadn't, if you're serious about wanting a relationship, you have to keep trying. It won't fall out of the sky. Story 3. Was on several online sites for a few years. A couple of dates here and there, but nothing serious. Then I connected with one girl and we clicked. First date ended up being a 3-hour conversation hanging out at a restaurant where we not only knew we went to the same college at the same time, but had mutual friends. I thought it was too far-fetched that we hadn't met in college. So that night after the date, I went through old digital photos convinced we had met. I found a group photo with her in it, and I remembered meeting her. We absolutely would not have worked as a couple. Thinking it was a bit much to tell her that I spent an hour scouring photos, I waited to tell her that we actually did meet in college. On our wedding day, a year and a half later, it was a revelation in my vows that even somehow, after our first date, I thought it would be a surprise to tell her later on. Our child just turned 10 weeks old. We love each other and bicker like an old married couple, all because we had another chance to meet at the right time. Story 4. Happily married for 7 years. eHarmony. This is how my buddy convinced me to try online dating. Number 1, use a paid service. You know the person you meet has already invested at least $50 to $100 to get to meet someone, so they are somewhat serious. Number 2, you rule out the first deal breakers you learn in the first 10 dates. e.g., want kids in the next 2 years? More important to have fun now or be financially responsible? How much smoking or drinking do you do? Career important? Number 3, there is more likely to be some traceability, so there are less people that will rob you. Number 4, he was meeting great people 10 to 20 times faster than you would through everyday life. You can connect with people you would never meet otherwise. My advice to make it work: number 1, be transparent. Don't hide anything. You want someone to accept you as you are. Don't try and out who you want to be or who you think they will like. Number 2, be real about who you could be happy with when connecting with matches. We all want our mate to be a 10, but the reality is that after a couple of years, you won't see the surface and will love a person for what's on the inside. Number 3, accept a person for who they are. Do not get into something where you think you can change things that are deal breakers. Number 4, online dating is not a sign of desperation. Try it. We have busy lives and it connects you to a much larger pool of people than you would ever meet in your life. You only have so many friends to meet, and that chance encounter from the movies is rare or just BS. I never would have met my wife otherwise. Story 5. I met my ex on Tinder 4 years ago. I swiped right on him because he was a cute Latino guy and one of his photos was him wearing a Wookiee. He immediately accused me of being a bot. We saw Star Wars together and fell in love. Unfortunately, I had a pretty nasty habit at the time. He helped me kick it, but only after witnessing me go coded in his apartment. We've dated on and off since then without success and moving past all that my recovery entailed. We've both put each other through awful things, as he spiraled into drinking problems for about a year, dealing with the fallout of our relationship, before he also decided to get sober. He's nearly 2 years sober and I'm 2.5 years clean, and I'm going to graduate nursing school in May. I think I'd be gone if I hadn't met him, and he's my best friend in many ways. I don't know that it will ever work out between us, even though I want it to, but I'd like to believe this is still a success story as far as dating apps go. Story 6. Back in the early days of online dating, before Match or Tinder or OkCupid, it was Craigslist and some other stuff that's probably not around anymore. The Onion used to have personals. I'm sure there were some network with other digital publications, but I thought the personals on the Onion would be a good place to meet someone with a sharp sense of humor. After many bad dates, I met the guy who I would eventually marry. First date, we met up at a show, then decided to grab coffee again the next morning and ended up spending the entire day together. We've now been married for 11 years, together 16. This was so early in online dating that we would lie about how we met for a long time. I think it's great if you know what you want, what you're willing to try and what you aren't, and are as honest as possible in how you represent yourself. If you can't put yourself out there in a genuine way, it's hard to expect that you're going to find someone who's really into you. From Craigslist to the Onion, the early days of online dating were wild. Story 7. Yes and no. Depends on the app and depends on what you're looking for. I'm not enough of a savage for apps like Tinder. I meet girls there in hopes of going on a date and getting to know them and then see where that goes. Call me old-fashioned, but I like to build somewhat of a connection before moving forward. Whenever I'd match with girls younger than me, mid-20s, I'm almost in my mid-30s, it seems very fast-paced. I get a message from a girl asking to meet in the next couple of hours. I ask if she'd like to go out for a drink, but she wants to come to my place immediately and get right to it. I tell her I'm at work, but I'll be free in 6 hours or so. And she unmatched instantly. This has happened a few times. I still would have preferred getting to know the person a bit before, but that feeling is not always mutual. I figured I don't belong on Tinder, so I deleted it. Story 8. Long story, but I swear, it's cute. I met my boyfriend gaming. He was my best friend. I'm a Texan and he's a Pennsylvanian, so I hope for meeting in person, but we made it work. Both of us are writers, so we shared our work with each other. I can somewhat biasedly testify he's the best writer I've ever read. We met in August of 2015. I fell in love within 6 months, but I put my feelings aside. We were both pretty young and had no chance of meeting in person. I was sure he didn't feel the same way. We went on with our lives. He got in a 2-year relationship with a girl he worked with. I dated a couple people, though because the first mistreated me, I spent a while in therapy. I promise this is relevant. As I was between relationships in January 2018, he bought plane tickets to see me. Keep in mind, I'm in rural Texas, so this was probably around $400. He was going to stay for 5 days in June, including my birthday. In spring 2018, we started having this recurring conversation. It was something like this. We'd be a good married couple. We're kind of perfect for each other. We share quality. You are who I'm looking for." Followed by a hasty, "It's a shame I have no feelings for you." June came. I expected awkwardness when he arrived. I've heard lots of horror stories about online friends having nothing to talk about in person. But I swear to God, when I drove up and saw him in the airport, y'all, I took a video of it actually, nearly hysterical laughing. My whole face lit up. Some crying. I didn't even park my car correctly before I ran up to hug him. We pulled away and both said the same thing. "I expected you to be taller or shorter." The visit was really good, except for the fact it happened right on top of my trauma. We enjoyed each other's company until something triggered my PTSD, which I didn't know how to handle yet. The night of my birthday, we sat on the couch until 1 a.m. and I just cried in his arms. He handled it well. The day he left, we had this moment. I dropped him at the airport, was crying like a fool, and did for the next hour. He never cries in front of me, but apparently did once I left. But there was this moment when we pulled away from our hug and looked at each other. And I remember thinking, should I kiss him? I should kiss him. No, that's creepy. A few weeks later, we got into this nasty fight. Unfortunately, every day since the visit, we had fought. Usually, bless him, it was on him. He started saying all these things about how he was all alone and nobody loved him and he had no friends and he couldn't confide in me. This was unusual for him. He hadn't had these concerns before. But basically, he kept just saying he couldn't talk to me and I wasn't his friend. And one day, after days of just asking what I could do, I lost my mind at this a little. Told him I poured so much goddamn effort into this relationship and cared for him a lot and that I was trying and I was his friend. I wouldn't take this BS anymore. And as I was turning my phone off, he said, "Wait, I'm in love with you." I clarify he means romantic love, and then I tell him, "Me too." So we had a brief relationship somewhere between 3 and 6 months, depending on your interpretation. My trauma from what happened before interfered with both her physical and emotional intimacies. He was also a little overprotective and jealous. It ended and was followed by 8 months of silence. Eventually, we called. He had texted periodically over the break, about every 2 months, and once when he texted, I asked to call for closure. The conversation slowly spun from a distance discussion to friendly banter. We caught up on what had happened, and we started talking as friends again. Things were rocky for a while. He wanted a relationship. I wasn't quite ready for one. We spent a few months in limbo until I had an epiphany reading some of our old texts. I had villainized him in my head and had forgotten, number one, how much we had loved each other. Number two, how much I still loved him. And number three, how much of an emotionally withdrawn schmuck I had been. So I called, apologized, and told him I wasn't willing to give up on this relationship without having put in 100% effort. So now, here we are, in a relationship. Now we live in New York, so we visit each other about once a month. It's rad. He's rad. We love each other. He introduced me to Reddit too. So if he sees this, hey Ninjalet, I love you. Story 9. Bear with me. First post here. Met someone in eHarmony in 2015. She lived 2 hours away. Absolutely gorgeous girl. I drove all the way and we ended up talking in her apartment until daylight. We hit it off like crazy. And we rented a house together where I was living. We became best friends and life was just amazing. She even helped support me while I quit my job and started a whole new career. While I was in trade school, we found out she was pregnant. We never really talked about having kids and I'd never really considered having one, but we were both happy as could be. Fast forward and we got married. I got my dream job fresh out of school. We have our son 1 week after that and buy our first house near my new job 1 year after that. She decided to quit her career, be a stay-at-home mom while I worked. Life was great. I loved our new town, our house, our family. Then just over 1 year after that, my wife gets sick. She seemed to have the flu, but she was keeping food down and she assured me she didn't need to go to the hospital. The next day I came home from work on my lunch hour like I always do and I found her unconscious on the floor. I called 911 and had her CPR waiting on the ambulance. They couldn't help. She passed away September 5th, 2018. The doctors think she had a heart arrhythmia, which then caused a seizure, but they couldn't even tell me for sure. She had no history of any medical problems with her heart or anything. Anyways, thank you to anyone that read my story. You can find your true love in dating sites. It happened once, at least. My son and I miss her every day. Hug your family every day. Story 10. My brother tried online dating after he lost his wife. He didn't put that he was widowed on his profile. but mentioned that he had 2 young kids, 6 and 3, had a few dates that were awful, and then he started chatting with a woman that only posted in her profile her interests and that she was looking for a companion. A week later, while talking for 3 hours on the phone, she brought up that she was a widow from her husband, losing his battle with colon cancer around the same time my brother lost his wife. It was serendipitous that they met. I remember him telling me on the phone he loved that she just knew what he was feeling when he struggled with his wife's passing. They were each other's support. Before online dating, he had a really hard time finding a support group or people that were around his age, 36, that he could relate to that loss of a spouse. Most groups had people over 50 and adult children. He felt alone for a long time. Online dating brought back his hope to happiness. Happy to say they got married a few months ago, and they have such a great family dynamic. Story 11. I'm sorry for the long response, but I feel like I just need a sec to vent about online dating because I don't talk about this stuff to anyone. Long story short, it didn't work out. Now I'm off online dating for good. I racked up enough courage to talk to or see 4 different guys. Not at the same time, but these relationships happened consecutively. But 3 out of the 4 lied and told me they wanted a monogamous relationship. We talked for months, go on dates, really getting to know each other, and I clicked so well with all 3. I know I made a mistake of hooking up too soon, however. As soon as they had the chance to hook up, they ghosted me. I would rather they just be upfront and tell me they just wanted to hook up. Then it would have never involved my feelings or made as much of an effort if it was just casual. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't care that we hooked up because at the end of the day, I got something out of it too, but to put on an act, just to use me is pathetic and, to be honest, selfish and heartless that people just toy with people's emotions to get what they want and then bounce. I had genuine feelings for these men and they played me like a flute. I have trust issues now and I don't have the motivation to put the effort into a relationship at this point in my life. I would love to have someone there by my side as my best friend and partner, but it's just not in the cards for me. And investing time, effort, money into people just to find out they never felt that way and only wanted one thing is disheartening. The 4th guy didn't work out romantically, but I was straight up and told him that I didn't think we were compatible in that way. I just didn't feel that connection and I don't think I was physically attracted to him in person. So we talked it out and he respected that I was straight up and we're still friends to this day. We talk all the time. So I guess the whole online dating wasn't necessarily a completely bad experience because I did gain a good friend out of it. Story 12. Okay, Cupid. Got someone that wanted to talk elsewhere. They made me make a Kik account. Girl with a kid, Kaden, or whatever. Hit it off a bit. Conversed for weeks. I mentioned son by name. She was like, oh my god, you remember his name? Honestly, you just scroll back up and reread the older messages. I mentioned his name sounds like Raiden, the Thunder God from Mortal Kombat, so it's easy to remember. At that point, it went downhill, and she basically said video games are for the immature and I should stop playing. As I read those lines while I'm standing in the middle of college where I'm getting a degree to be an artist for video games. At that point, I stopped communicating. Then even meet in person. Oh hey, another one from OKC redirecting me to Kik. This girl, Mistress Pow Pow or whatever, got me to communicate like a sub. I was like, okay, interesting. I'll go along with it. I stopped acting when she linked me to a site where I had to make an account and pay. Said it was to keep a record and I'd be reimbursed after for the account creation. Now I'm a broke college student where I have to make do with $20 a week. I made that work and lived. I'm not going to go through with this charade, so I gave her some choice words and stopped communicating. Apparently, Kik is going offline. Good riddance. Tinder. Bots. Bots everywhere. The few that did swipe me right were not my type. The rare ones I was interested in, though, I tried to communicate first. I hate talking first, but this is the world we live in. It doesn't go that well for me. I don't really know what to say through text. I'm much more charming in person, but asking, hey, you want to meet in person? Only goes over well if you hit it off in the messages. I have so far never met anyone in person through any dating app. On the bright side, I found a girl that linked her Instagram and said to hit her up for some YOLO stuff. So whenever I feel up to it, I can ask for it. I don't think I'm photogenic. I don't smile, but at college, apparently, I've been pursued and didn't notice multiple times. Honestly, if a girl wants to let me know, they need to steal a kiss from me to get it. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 13. I've been through it all from online dating. I think I'm a decent looking dude, but awkward and goofy, and never liked meeting a girl out at a bar or something because
I felt like I had to be someone else and not myself. All my official relationships have been with girls I met online, and it's been something. First girl I ever met online. Ended up getting engaged until I found she had a Facebook under a fake name and was dating for someone else for a few months at the end of a relationship. Second girl I met online. Ended up going to college together and moved in together for about 6 months until she cheated on me. Third girl I met online. Dated for a few months, great relationship, but ended because she was moving to Florida to be with her family. Fourth girl I met online. Dated for 4 months and then I broke up with her on New Year's. My feelings for her just ended out of nowhere and it really confused me. Fifth girl I met online. Dating now, been together for over a year and lived together. Moved to a different city to be with her and got a great job there as well. Our awkward, introverted, goofy selves complement each other and I can fart in front of her. She's the one. This dating history sounds like a mixtape of love songs with a few unexpected skips. But hey, every track led him to the perfect harmony. Here's to farting freely and finding the one. Story 14. I've been using it for 5 years, off and on. Had a lot of hookups. Few terrible dates that now make for hilarious anecdotes, and overall 4 relationships that started with a swipe right. First, I broke a dude's heart. Then a few months later, somebody else broke mine. Then again, I fell in love and it was a catastrophe. I still have minor PTSD from that relationship. For a year, I remained single and just messed around. Gave up completely. Decided to become a catless spinster and got a dog. A month later, I matched with my current boyfriend. 6 months together. I'm breaking my adult record. And life is so good. I'm really thankful for Tinder bringing us together. He's the best partner I've ever had. I thought that making me is a mission impossible, but he makes me so much. He's passionate, fun to be around, and stable. His empathy levels are off the charts. He never yells at me, and he sometimes makes food for us, and then even washes the dishes. He always praises my cooking, even if I just make sandwiches. Also, he has a peachy back. For me, Tinder was totally worth it. It made me feel a lot more confident and changed my life for the better. Story 15. I'd say I've had a mediocre experience with online dating. I've attempted Match.com, but my primary experience has been with Tinder. I dabbled with Bumble once, but I was in a smallish town and it wasn't effective. I'd rate myself a 7 out of 10. Positive or negative depending on whether the girl likes bald, buff dudes that enjoy ice cream a bit too much. While swiping in the USA, I'd be only matched with less attractive females or males pretending to be females. So that's kinda terrible. But part of the issue may have been algorithm-based. I would pay so I could swipe right on everything, and apparently that isn't the right way to use the app. Outside of the USA, it has been a bit more effective. Maybe because Americans, maybe because I don't weigh 145 pounds. Tinder has less of a hookup culture and more of a serious relationship vibe going on in the Middle East. But I think that mostly has to do with the fact that most of the women are lower income workers and hoping to capitalize on a relationship with a well-off Westerner. Overall, 5 out of 10. Would recommend outside of the USA, but if it's used in the USA, it just destroys my self-confidence. Story 16. From a guy's perspective and my experience, including conversations with others, Tinder. As you read the comments, so many do meet on here and make it work, but it goes down the way you make it. Bumble. In my honest opinion, gives women the illusion they're in control. But I guess that's because there's more gating control with the initial matching. But once you both match, then it's just like anything else. OKC. Can feel sloppy as they thought you can just message anybody, but they are Q&A personality matching algorithm displays, so they could see instantly where you deviate from opinions. CMB. Seems to have better quality but favors the patient. This is where I had requests take consistently the longest to convert into a match. At least days, a couple, up to a month, which did happen sometimes on other sites, just more frequent here. Hinge. Favors the ones who can strike up conversation inspired by the person's profile. Definitely fun for my personality type. Match. Too long ago. Don't remember. eHarmony. Have a friend who got married. Has 2 kids. I got married, then divorced with a daughter off Match. I've seen my ex-wife's profile on dating sites. Engaged and broke off from OKC. Currently dating seriously from CMB. Had one crazy person. At least 2 catfish, massive altered photos, and I've heard lots of female friends to have blocked many crazy dudes. Story 17. I found the love of my life in OkCupid. We've been together since January of 2017 and going strong. We both have college debt, So one of us has to get rid of that before we get married, but we have both agreed that it's in our future. We have 2 kids together, and we live without friends or roommates or landlords. Friends and roommates bought a house together last year, and they're letting us live there for normal rent. I will say I'm a very picky person. This is my first relationship, not from lack of options, and I just turned 29. I had a system where I awarded points, but all it really was me checking off my criteria list. I heard a saying a few days ago on Reddit, and it fits my mindset perfectly. If you don't go into a relationship for forever, you're going into heartbreak. I know what I want in a person, and I wasn't going to settle for someone who wouldn't be good for me. And I certainly don't want to be bad for them. Story 18. Because my job had me constantly moving, and I was average looking at best, I had not been on a real date in at least 4 years when I decided to try online dating. Put effort into my messages, but never any positive responses. So I changed my strategy, put a ton of effort into my profile and waited. I met up with every girl who messaged me. First girl gave off the wrong vibe, creeped me out. Went on a couple dates with her just to see if I'd warm up to her, but I did not. Second girl was an okay attractiveness. I could work with her personality, and she seemed okay with me too. I put the effort in, and things worked for a bit, though it was never 100%. I think it was clear that I was lowering my expectations by being with her, and honestly, she was probably lowering her expectations as well. We eventually got into an argument where we were both sure we were in the right, and we didn't actually like each other enough to put in the effort to get past it. Easiest breakup I've ever been through. Third girl. Literal love at first sight. Told a friend on my way home from the date that I was going to marry her. We've been together 10 years, married for 8, and have a 6-year-old daughter together. Story 19. I used OkCupid off and on. It's only going to help you if you actually put in the effort to meet people. I didn't make much progress until I was completely honest with who I was and what I was looking for. I answered OkCupid questions that really mattered to me, things you don't easily compromise on with another person, like religious views, political views, and general outlook on life. Went on a few dates that didn't really work, but kept on going. I was okay being alone, but felt like I was really missing out on not having someone around to always spend time with and enjoy life together. My wife messaged me there, and we went on a date at Starbucks. We texted a lot, and ended up spending time talking until like 3 a.m. in a movie theater parking lot once or twice, too. I asked her to be my partner in crime, and relationship-wise, she basically moved in within a month or so, spending half the week in my new apartment, and we married just 3 years together. It's really wonderful to have someone who is similar to you in all the right ways and wants to spend their life with you. She's made me a better person, and it's refreshingly freeing to know both of us have each other to rely on. And no matter what we decide to do in life, we can do it together. Story 20. I was on OkCupid years and years ago, like back when they had their chat room. Anywho, I was in the chat room, some guy was being a schmuck and I called him out. Another guy tried to give me comments about looking so young. The guy who tried to give me comments about looking young was really nice, and we ended up being immediately really close. We were best friends for years. Within 6 months of us knowing each other, he told me we were going to get married. I said there was no way that was going to happen. Fast forward another 2 or so years, and there was some drama that started up, and I moved from Dallas to Kansas City, where he could protect me and help me get through some things. We started dating, always promising to be friends first, lovers second, and about another 5 years after that, we got married. And he was kind enough to wait till the day after we got married to say, "See, we got married. Told you so." Story 21. I was coming home from Orlando on a road trip with my best friend at the time. She said we should download OkCupid in our phones while we were there to see if we could meet up with some of the locals. I had recently deleted OkCupid because I had a lot of awful dates and was tired of the constant disappointment. Didn't pay too much attention to the app until we were on our way home, North GA, and I was bored and browsing through people who recently looked at my profile. Not sure if that's still a thing on OkCupid, but it was in 2012. Saw his profile and thought he was a total babe. Also noticed he lived less than an hour from where I was living at the time. Sent him a cheesy message along the lines of, "Hey there, you can't just stop by my profile and not say hello." Apparently that worked, because 6 years later, we're living together. Adopted 2 dogs and a fish, and word from close friends is that he plans on proposing to me sometime this year. Story 22. I found a girl I used to go to high school with on Tinder. She never seemed too much into me and was in her own group of friends of mostly guys, whereas I was just with the outcasts and the weirdos. Like anyone else, I wasn't really expecting much out of a Tinder date, and I was already beating myself up for having to stoop so low for Tinder in the first place, so so I wasn't sure what I was looking for until I found her. Something just struck a chord with me seeing her there, and I just had this thought of, she really doesn't need to be on here. She's way too kind of a person. Guys on here would be the worst for her. So I took a chance and sent a really out-of-place text through Facebook Messenger just saying hello again. Looking back at it makes me cringe, because I knew how awkward it was. I played it cool, and surprisingly, so did she. And she seemed fine speaking with me despite her barely knowing me in high school. Either way, how the conversation went, I just didn't want her to suffer from awful guys on Tinder. And if I get friend-zoned, I figure it'd still be a win because I needed someone, relationship or not. We've been together for almost 8 months now, and it's flown by. She's the best person I've ever met. She actually treats me like a human being, and our chemistry somehow just works. We're both tired of BS. She's seen how lonely and sad I've been, and I've seen how horrible she was treated by previous exes. We both know what we want, and it's just like two puzzle pieces locking into place finally. I never thought it would work out, but it is. To her, I'm her superhero somehow, and all I do is be myself towards her. It's a strange feeling after so much trauma from the past. Story 23. I only get matches from super likes and casually from likes. It's like this. 40% don't respond, 60% respond, and 2/5 of them seem to be nice people and open to a conversation. The others want attention. Of those 2/5, half of them ghost you for no reason, and half of the ones not ghosting never meet up with you for whatever reason, and you both just end up watching each other's Snapchat stories for years. The remaining girls I had to date with, which counts to exactly 4 in 1 year. I'm 20 years old, so nothing serious yet. Although I actually had feelings for my last date, but she decided we didn't click enough after 5 dates to start something more serious. She wasn't interested in staying in contact with me, and it hurt me. But guess who texted me at New Year's Eve? Not answering that. So yes, I do think you can have success on Tinder as an average-looking man. It's just really hard and draining, and you do need a bit of luck, but I'll take it, because there's definitely a chance I'll eventually find someone on here. Not giving up. Story 24. Freshman year of college, my friends convinced me to get a Tinder account after months of depression caused by a previous relationship. It isn't long before I meet the love of my life. Funny as it sounds, we strike up conversations about shared interests, of which there are many. We spend hours talking to each other, even when I'm in class. I used to avoid texting in class and still do, with her and my best friend being the only exception. Eventually, we decided to meet up for a date at a local park. I get there an hour early. She's an hour late. Rain pours heavily in winter as I sit on a metal bench near where I expect her to come from. It's cold, freezing even. After an hour, most people would probably go home. But there's something deep inside that tells me I should wait. I hear her say my name and I look up. I'm mesmerized by her beauty, even wrapped up in a jacket and drenched with rain. She's the most gorgeous person I'd ever seen. Way, way better than her pictures. We have an awkward first start, but the day quickly begins to feel natural, smooth. I spent 9 hours with her that night. We connect more than I've ever had with someone. Not long after, we made it official. Been a little over a year now. And while there have certainly been struggles, as one expects in any relationship, I can certifiably say that I love her, and being with her makes me happier than anything or anyone I have or will experience. I love you, honey. Story 25. In 2010, I met an older man on World of Warcraft. I was 23, he was 34. We started an online courtship. I flew out to meet him and he came out to meet my family. Things were going really well. In 2011, I moved halfway across the US to live with him. Started college, went full-time, and worked full-time while living with him. After a while, he became emotionally and mentally mistreating. He didn't trust me around other men. I couldn't go anywhere alone except for school and work. I didn't have any friends I could live with, and I couldn't afford anything by myself. I was on the brink of ending it all. In 2013, I met someone on Reddit who lived in the same town as me. We ended up meeting up and really clicking. 4 months later, I was able to leave and I moved in with my new friend and their friends. We also dated briefly. Since then, I've met other people using OkCupid and Tinder, and everyone's been pretty great, even if we didn't stay together. I've been with my current partners for almost 4 years now, and I'm in a much better place mentally. Story 26. Matched with a girl in my home city on Bumble back in May 2019. We met a couple times and hit it off before I moved back to uni for my final year after the summer holidays. I loved her wit, willingness to carry a really interesting conversation, and how we had similar ideas and tastes in different things. Super smart. opinionated, and spoke 5 languages and majoring in the same field as me. Wow. It's strange how the stars aligned because we discovered we had a metric ton of mutual friends. Even went to the same school for an overlapping year but never ran into each other. It's even stranger how the universe works. We're both supposed to be ENFJs, share similar opinions on many things, and yet we're like chalk and cheese. Or so her friends said when I met them for the first time. And in a couple days, I'll have dated this beautiful, incredible girl for 6 months. I can't wait to see what this new year is like for both of us, our careers and our growth, both together and as individuals. As for my girlfriend, I hope I can support her every way I can. Story 27. I'm an older lady. I've tried several dating sites. I've always made it clear in my profile that I am not interested in dating men who are 5 or more years younger than myself. I would prefer my age within about 5 years either way. I kept getting interest for men younger than my youngest child. Hard no. So many of these men said to me age is just a number. That makes me want to cringe. Age is just a number? Fine. But I will not ever date a man who's younger than my children, ever, ever, ever. I don't owe anyone an explanation, and they all hounded me for one. Hard no and a big fat block. The only men who were age appropriate were either only looking for hot younger women or creepy weirdos who wanted open relationship buddy situations. I did that in my younger years, not what I am looking for, or romance scammers. I never made a match with anyone I wanted to actually date. I look great for my age. I'm educated, very far left as far as politics goes. I have a wide range of interests. Dating sites don't have what I'm looking for. Story 28. I met my boyfriend just over 2 years ago on Bumble. I just think you need to go into it without expectations. Over the course of about a year, I met 15 or so different guys for dates. Of those, only 2 or 3 got second dates, and 1 became my boyfriend. I, on the other hand, was my boyfriend's first, and last, Bumble date. I think a lot of people are unsuccessful because they talk too long online and mark a person as their soulmate before meeting. You can't really get a good sense of a person, and sometimes online chemistry does not translate to real-life chemistry. So I preferred not to spend too much time talking to someone over the app, met them ASAP and see how we got along in person. Think of it as speed dating, in the sense that you have to be prepared to feel out a few, or many, different dynamics. I immediately knew that my boyfriend was the one for me after going on dates with all those other people and then meeting him. I could just tell. And the first date went so well that I actually canceled the second date that I had planned with someone else. So as long as you're prepared to throw some fish back until you find the right one, I think you can be successful. And I would also say that out of the 15 to 20 people that I met, I didn't have any real bad experiences, just a couple mediocre ones. Story 29. I matched with a girl on Tinder. Our chat started out as talks about cats, tattoos, hobbies, etc., and we decided we had to meet. On our first date, she made her way to my area and we had coffee, watched horror and comedy shows, and chilled out for the day with one another. When it got to the evening, we went to the city to see a theatrical play of The Woman in Black. The date went really well. We ended up going back to mine and then to a hotel. And no, we didn't have intimacy, but we shared our first kiss. Since then, our relationship developed and flourished into something that only time would create. We ended up becoming a couple and moving in with one another. We're almost inseparable. When we have to sleep away from one another, we both end up having bad sleep, and it only takes a couple of days at most before we end up calling one another. We have our little family of us and our 2 kids now. We're still going strong. She's the love of my life. And I say that after very careful thought and consideration. In 7 days, I am proposing to her. I've orchestrated an entire day of plans, starting with a trip into London to a spa where I've arranged for a violinist to be for the proposal, through to doing some fun London attractions, followed by an official secret cinema experience of Stranger Things. It is also her birthday. I hope I can make her day one of the best she's had, and I hope that her answer makes it my best day too. So in all, I've had an extremely positive experience from Tinder or online dating.
People who met on Reddit, slid into the DMs, and actually formed a romantic relationship in real life. What's your story? Met him on my city's R4R board. He was just coming out of self-imposed dating exile since he had been unemployed for a while. I hadn't been in a serious relationship for some time. Something about his post caught my eye, though I couldn't tell you what exactly. We messaged back and forth for a few days. I was using my alt account for safety. Neither of us thinking it was likely to go anywhere. But we hit it off and had our first date that weekend. He pre-inquired about my favorite flavor of breath mint, which I thought was adorable. It turned out I lived about 5 minutes walk from where he worked, and had actually walked past his office in a public building 2 days before we met. We dated for about a year, both really happy. But then he got transferred to another part of the country for work. I drove out with him to help him get set up, and then we flew back so he could wrap up at his previous work location for a few days. Seeing him walk out my door the last day was really awful, because he didn't know if he wanted me to follow him for good. And I wasn't crazy about where he was moving to. Eventually, after a lot of Netflix or Discord dates, he realized he was pretty unhappy without me, and asked me to move with him. Selling my house and leaving a job and all my friends behind was really scary, but I did it. We bought a house together in the new city, and I switched careers. 3 years later, we're still very happy together, but I don't like it here. So we're in the process of getting ready to move back to my old side of the country later this year. He proposed a few weeks ago, and we're getting married in a tiny ceremony this summer, somewhere his family has had a summer home for years. I have a lot of doubts about the future, but not about him. He's sweet and supportive and smart and mischievous in equal measures. And I'm glad every day that he posted that ad. Breath mint preference? That's a solid first date question. Who knew? Story 2. So I am currently 31 and will be 32 this year. This happened when I was around 27. I responded to a post on r/r4r from a 20-year-old college student who was looking for someone to talk to, specifically platonic, and shared many of my interests. The age difference never really came up because I figured it would be a one-and-done conversation for both of us to end time. I was quite wrong. Unbeknownst to me, she had made 2 posts, one of which was the one I replied to and another one after it from r/dirtyr4r. After about 2 hours on Skype, she asked me if I was ever going to make a move, to which I just kind of went, huh? She pasted the post URL and asked if I replied to this, and I said no. We finished up the conversation since she was looking for someone to have phone intimacy with and went our separate ways. I didn't hear from her for around 2 weeks. Then out of nowhere, I got a message on Skype from her asking if I was free for a call. I just got home from uni and figured I may as well. We ended up speaking for hours and realized we had more in common than we originally thought. We continued like this for around 3 months or so until one night she dropped the L-bomb in a very suspect way. She was falling asleep and made a bunch of typos while saying it. I questioned it and she suddenly was wide awake and making 0 typos. I put it down to her being shy, insecure, and just immature. I was wrong. It was manipulation. We started dating, but I was hesitant. I was skeptical of online relationships and was still a bit weirded out by the confession of love, but I went along with it because I figured I had nothing to lose. Things started off normally until we passed the first Christmas. We spent a lot of time over the holidays playing games together while she was back at her parents' house. We called a lot, her parents teased her, and she laughed along. Things seemed fine. Then she went back to college. She started posting on R4R again for people to talk to. At first, I accepted that she was just looking for people for nighttime. After I had gone to bed due to the 6-hour time difference until one night she went to bed, said goodnight, etc., and off she went. Something was niggling at the back of my brain, so I checked Dirty R4R and found the same copy-pasted post she had shown me months ago on a different account. I messaged her and woke her up to talk about it. I was, needless to say, furious. She had proven every bit of skepticism I had right and basically made me feel like a fool. I went to bed angry and told her we were over. By the time I woke up the next day, I had 20-something messages apologizing and trying to rationalize it away. It really felt like she was just throwing anything she could and wanted to see what stuck. Against my better sense, I decided to give her a second chance. Again, she was young. Maybe she just didn't understand the gravity of cheating on someone. Things were okay for a while, until they weren't. She started pulling away from me, making excuses to not call for days at a time when she normally would beg me to call. She'd ditch me to hang out with the cliquey girls from her dorm who would shut her out all the time. It just was sad, really. I felt pity for her. Eventually, we broke up and she claimed I was triggering her anxiety and depression. All I did was point out how things had changed. That should have been the biggest warning I needed to walk away. Unfortunately, I'm a pretty forgiving person when push comes to shove, and this nonsense continued for 2 years. It culminated in us drawing up a list of her love language, and it was literally filled with stuff such as call while doing homework even if it's silent calls and you're gaming, help me with schoolwork, etc., etc. By this point, her biggest complaint was I was smothering her and was too clingy. Like the girl who wanted to spend every available moment together was calling me too clingy for asking if she wanted to call while she worked each day. It culminated in us being on again and off again for the 2 to 3 years we spoke, me getting increasingly paranoid at her distance and Total 180 in attitude and eventually checking dirty R4R again a couple times a week. One night I found a post that I recognized to be her writing style. She was an aspiring English teacher and liked to write, so I read a bunch of her stuff. Asking to talk to people, so I sent her a message and pretended to be someone else. I asked to call her before I went to bed after catfishing her for a solid half hour. She ignored me for the whole half hour, then we called before I slept, and she had the cheek to tell me I had to work on my insecurities and learn to trust her. I went to bed, and within seconds of the call ending, I got an excited message from her on the fake account asking for phone intimacy. I called her out on it, and she tried to apologize, etc. At that point, I was just done. I sat and thought about everything that had happened over those 3 years and came to the conclusion that she was basically just a leech. She changed her tone when she needed a favor or money. She would guilt trip me if I wasn't around when she wanted me to be. She gave me obviously fake excuses for things. She would tell me she was busy whilst posting on Reddit for people to talk to while studying. It was a total mess of contradictions, manipulations, and guilt trips, and I still had lasting self-worth issues until I met my current partner. Story 3. I met my fiancé on Reddit, and our friends refer to our story as the most messed up fairy tale. In January of 2015, my high school sweetheart, who I'd been with for close to 6 years, lost her struggle with depression and ended herself. Especially during college, she had spoken a lot about her desire to end herself, and that was a pretty constant point of stress. She always claimed I would end up with a happier life if I would just let her do it. She said I'd find some wonderful woman who liked sci-fi. She was never a fan, so it was always an easy interest of mine to point to that we didn't share to make me happy. She was right, that I found someone as into sci-fi as I am and 100% compatible in every way. But she was not right that her passing would make my life happier. I wish every day that she had been able to find happiness in this life, wherever or with whoever that may have been. We were living together at the time, and although she had struggled with mental health throughout the entire time I'd known her, things had seemed good lately, so finding her was a shock. I was utterly destroyed and had no idea how to respond. My parents drove down and helped me pack up her things and drive myself and her car back home as it didn't make sense for her parents to drive down as well. I stayed home for a couple weeks and spent a lot of time with her friends from college and high school. That whole 2-week period at home leading up to her wake is a big haze to me now. Eventually, it was time to go back to DC where I was living at the time. I don't remember much of the next few weeks, but I was not in a good place. I just went to work, came home, and just sat in a big beanbag in front of the TV until it was time for work again. I didn't have the resources to find a new place to live, so just being in the bedroom where I found her was tough for a while. After about a month of being back in the apartment that we had shared, I was really struggling with how I was going to be able to go on. I was on Reddit one day and just happened to see a post in r/magictcg from a widow who was hosting an EDH tournament in honor of her husband, a war vet who had ended it all the year before. I'd gone into Magic in college and played a lot with my friends and late girlfriend. I needed some reassurance that I would be able to continue existing while dealing with this loss, so I reached out to the Redditor hosting the tournament. I introduced myself and just asked her how she had been able to make it as far as she had. We messaged back and forth a few times and eventually switched to talking on the phone. We were both incredibly lonely, and being able to talk to someone who understood what loss felt like was very helpful for processing a lot of it. At some point during our talks, she convinced me to get tickets to go to Bonnaroo with her. It wasn't exactly my jam as far as the lineup was concerned, but I grew up going to hardcore or metal or punk shows and just loved live music in general. It gave me something concrete to look forward to in a way. It gave me a bit of a future again. Sure, it was just 6 months, but I had plans for the future again. After about a month of us talking every day, my mental health started taking a nosedive again. And this Redditor I just started talking to a month before took a risk, bought a plane ticket to fly up to DC and take care of me. We became closer as the weeks and months went by, and at some point in our relationship, transitioned from being just a friendship to something more. Neither of us had intended to have a romantic relationship, so we had both just been completely open from the get-go about all of our issues, baggage, and flaws, and as a result, it has made our long-term relationship so much easier because there is nothing about myself that I feel like I need to hide from her. We share so many interests, values, and outlooks on life that it has made our relationship a dream. Around May, I made the decision to move down south with her and started looking for jobs. I got extremely lucky and ended up getting a job just in time so that I was able to pack up my apartment just before Bonnaroo, move everything down, enjoy the festival, which is a chapter of my story I won't delve into here, then start my new job. It has been 5 years since I messaged her, and I've now gone on countless adventures with this woman. Trust her with my life. Love her more than I thought was possible, and I get to marry her in a little over 2 months. The situations that brought us together were awful and tragic, but finding her has shown me that even tragedies can have happy endings. Story 4. Met a guy on Reddit when I moved back to my college town and needed help getting my motorcycle out of a rental van. I posted in the local subreddit asking for help, and this guy replied that he was buying a motorcycle ramp that day and he could drop by after. He dropped by with a friend he brought along to help, and it turned out that friend was a mutual friend of mine also. After they got the motorcycle out, the three of us went out for drinks, hung out in the old town, and eventually got pizza at a place that was open really late. Reddit guy dropped me off at home around 4 a.m. I kissed him, and we kinda became inseparable. 3 months later, we moved in together. 9 months after that, we were married, and less than a month ago, we had our first baby. Meeting him was one of the best things, if not the best thing, to ever happen to me. Story 5. Met my boyfriend in a kick group in 2017. We were attached to other partners at the time, but would joke and tease each other when we were around at the same time. We both split with our partners around the same time. Ended up messaging him so I could keep up with the happy banter. Flirting ensued and we both clicked. I would talk to him for hours upon hours between phone conversations, video chatting, and messaging back and forth. We made plans of taking a mini vacation together to meet and see if we wanted to make the move from California to Ohio. I was willing to move there, but he wanted out of Cali. After thinking it over, I told him that if he was serious, he should just move here. It didn't matter if our actual chemistry in person wasn't there. I knew that we could cohabitate well. He moved in March of 2018 and had a fairy tale meeting. Instant chemistry. The attraction was there for both of us, and we had 7 months of total bliss. Unfortunately, I didn't get a lifetime of happiness as he was gone in a trucking accident, but I still believe in love. It's been a little over a year, and he taught me what I deserve and how I should be treated in a relationship, and I'll forever be thankful for that. A bittersweet love story that reminds us to cherish every moment. Story 6. A couple of years ago, this girl messaged me on Reddit saying she really connected with a comment I made about first seeing the ocean because she had just gone through a similar experience. She was going to come down to Chicago to visit a friend of hers and asked for suggestions of things to do. I gave her a bunch, and then we kept talking and finding out we had more and more in common. We eventually started talking over the phone and text messages, and when she came down, we went out for burgers and drinks. We kept talking every day after that, and I was really starting to like her. She said she wanted to come down to Chicago again and if she could stay with me. I told her of course, and a few weeks later she was here for Saturday and Sunday. Really, it was mostly Sunday because she got in late on Saturday and fell asleep on my couch. The next day we went to the zoo and had a really amazing day. After that, we came back to my place and decided to go to the brewery nearby, which made a drink that had her name in it. We went there and then ended up bar hopping through until we ended up near the dive bar by my apartment. We drank and played pool there and eventually grabbed some to-go drinks and headed back. I asked if she wanted to see the place by the river I like to go and drink and think. We sat and eventually started making out and decided to head back to my apartment. We slept together. And then the next day I went to the south side to get breakfast at a place she really liked near her friend's apartment before she had to drive back. We kept talking after that, and I was planning on coming up to visit her in Detroit. But then one day she just ghosted me out of nowhere. We followed each other on Instagram, so I saw that she was okay a bit after she ghosted me. It was really crappy for me because I actually really like this girl. And to this day, I have no idea why she stopped talking to me. Story 7. I met my girlfriend 1 year ago in one of the mental health subreddits. It started with some casual talk with private messages, then we moved to Discord to chat more about life and everything. Then went on to gaming and sharing hobbies. Over the weeks, it was obvious we had great chemistry and could relate to most things. So we decided to give it a try as LDR. 6 months later, I went around the world to meet her in reality and spent 2.5 months with her family. It went perfectly well, and I had an awesome time. She was due to come to my country soon, but we had to cancel. So we'll see later in the year, then we can have a better overview of which country to settle into. So yeah, a perfect love story started with Reddit. Just with over 16,000 kilometers between us as we're on opposite sides of the world. Story 8. She posted a selfie that actually made me laugh out loud, and her weirdness seemed to match mine. She's incredibly beautiful, taller than most girls, but that worked perfectly well because I'm a literal giant. I slid into the DM, thinking I wouldn't hear anything back from her, but she actually responded back. We started talking as friends about life, memes, everything. We'd stay up until 3 a.m. watching Netflix or YouTube together. We were extremely open and weren't controlling or for anything else other than just mutual joy out of one another. We started to catch feelings for each other, but we both ended up in relationships and things didn't really match up after that point. She was either in one or I was, but every time in between we'd hit each other up again, missing the good days. When we did talk, it was awesome. I felt like I could literally tell her anything, and I did. She felt like that too. She would always send me these videos of her commenting on something weird happening. I always felt like she would be amazing at YouTube because she was just actually hilarious, and I didn't feel like I had to fake laugh with her. We had so much in common. We started to make plans for me to go see her when we both were finally single, but she decided that she wanted to give it another chance with her boyfriend there, and that was that. Things got really tough for me. I've been to 3 funerals in the past 4 months. My job and relationship life wasn't so grand. It got super low. After a 4-month hiatus, she hit me up and asked if I was still alive. She said she continuously checked my Reddit to see how I was and what I was doing. That literally made my entire week so much better. I ended up deleting that Reddit account after a post of mine exploded, and I didn't like the attention as much as I thought, which is why she asked if I was okay. I'm in a relationship with someone right now, but I literally think about her every single day. I literally scream at myself thinking that it's okay to be in a relationship, but continuously thinking about another girl, let alone just being friends with her, knowing that we'll have feelings for one another again. Everyone I've talked to about my current relationship tells me I should leave it because it's extremely controlling and cruel. But I just get so scared to take the leap again and she's not available. Whenever I told her I was in a relationship, she said that if I'm ever single again, I can hit her up and give it another chance. It's such a pickle, that situation. If I had full control over my life, I would 100% without a doubt want her in my life again, even if it was just talking throughout the day. I'm almost tempted to tag her to see if she misses me too, but I don't think it's a good idea because I don't want her to think I'm calling her out or something. I just miss her so bad. If you somehow read this, Sunshine, I really miss you in that Iowan accent. Story 9. We met on Reddit while we were in separate marriages. For almost 2 years, we helped each other try to save our very long relationships with our spouses. We would email each other all day long, just talk smack. I didn't even know where he lived, I just knew he was a good guy. He became my hidden best friend. Then my husband got a temporary job for 2 weeks in another state. I wrote to him saying I'd be out of town in Oregon for it. He replied, I live there. So we met. My husband, me, his wife, and he all went out to dinner several nights over those 2 weeks. We had a lot of fun. My husband decided to take the gig in Oregon on a permanent basis, and we decided to move. My job transfer came early, and he left a packed house to start while my husband waited for the movers. 3 weeks later, he called me up, told me he fell in love with another woman and was leaving me. I was abandoned in Oregon. I actually got her pregnant, I would later learn. My Reddit friend was the only person I knew. Through him, I met an entire social group and started today while waiting for my divorce. I was having a lot of financial issues and was desperately looking for a roommate. Still, my post-divorce life is so sweet. Reddit guy takes me out to lunch and tells me his marriage is over. I guess watching me go through it made it real and he realized he needed out. He had looked at apartments but was waffling on leaving. I was desperate, running out of money. I offered him a room in my 2-bedroom rental. He moved in. By the time my divorce was finalized, we were a couple. Everything I learned about him in 2 years of email turned out true. He was an amazing man. He inspired me. We shared heartache and divorce and so many emotional things. We bonded so deeply. That was almost 6 years ago. Today, we live on the other side of the country. We have a house by the beach. We have a family of 1 big newfie and 2 cats. We have yet to exit our honeymoon phase. And the intimacy? Amazing and prolific. I thank Reddit for just being there because without Reddit and that community, I'd still be miserable. It's amazing how life turns out. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 10. Text wall incoming. She and I met through Reddit because we were both in pretty bad shape and just needed somebody to talk to. We messaged for a bit and found out that we had a lot in common. We would message each other every day, pretty much all day for maybe the first week. One of our shared interests was video games. After that first week, we started playing games together and talking on Discord. We would talk on Discord every day whenever we were both free and stay up super late just learning about each other and telling each other stories from our childhood. She's from Texas and I'm from California, so our time difference is 2 hours. She told me her schedule for that semester of college, and I would make sure to wake up early enough to message her at least for a little bit before class. Fast forward about a month, and we're both pretty flirty with each other when we're talking. I'm not sure if we were both doing it on purpose or if we were even aware of it at the time. I had learned that she had a boyfriend, but she was super unhappy with their relationship, which was why she needed to talk to somebody in the first place. I also learned that he had cheated on her very early on and that she took him back because she was scared he'd end himself if she didn't. So, one night, while we were done playing games and just hanging out and talking on Discord, I just asked her point blank if she thought her relationship with her ex was going anywhere. She said that she didn't think so, so I asked if she thought that the two of us had a chance. We've been together for just over a year now. She's graduated college and has a job, and even though she has to wake up at 6:30 CST every morning for work, I still set an alarm for 4:30 a.m. PST so I can be awake, at least for a few minutes to talk to her and tell her to have a good day. I've been over there to visit her every month since July last year, and once she's been at her job for 6 months, she can start taking vacation time and visit me. To this day, it's almost surreal to think that I met the girl that I'm certain I want to be part of my life until I pass away on Reddit. It's definitely an unconventional way to meet, but I wouldn't change a single detail. Story 11. I posted a stupid hypothetical in R4R, and she was the only one who responded the opposite of how I would have. So I DM'd her and asked why. We instantly hit it off, talking more or less nonstop. Very quickly learned that on the surface, we had very little in common, but if you look deeper, we are each different parts of Danny DeVito's soul. It's by far the strongest and most profound connection I've ever made with another person. I can be myself and feel completely at ease with her. Even our hobbies being different has been a good thing. We both love to learn, and it's given us so many new things to follow down a rabbit hole. She's incredibly intelligent and insightful, all more practical and hands-on. We balance each other. Plus, she's the most fun person I've ever hung out with. We're both incredibly unconventional people and feed off each other. One of our first dates involved an intoxicated Uber driver, tripping, my grandparents, and pep talks. It was the best date I've ever had. Story 12. Oh my god, I've been waiting for a post like this. I'll try to keep it short for once. My dog and I made the front page of r/all or through r/aw. It was one of those calling for attention posts. Women started messaging me directly. From there, I developed feelings for two, and unfortunately, I chose to meet the wrong one. I was feeling the pain still from a recent divorce, and this person, while wonderful at first, seemed to fit what I thought that I needed. She told me that I was a good man, and I needed to hear that because up until then, I didn't believe it. Soon after, we got engaged and agreed that we wanted a family together, so we started planning for me to move across country from Utah to Ohio. I was already moving somewhere. Like everything else, time undid the relationship. Depression is real, and she knew the wave was coming. Our communication became shorter, and she became angrier with me. The pressure of the impending move seemed harder on her. I was looking for a fresh start. Well, things fell apart, and instead of moving to Columbus, Ohio, I reset the course for Seattle, Washington. I lost a ton of money in the wedding that we never had and didn't quite get the same level of respect that I expected and provided to her. Last I heard, someone told me that she sold the engagement ring online for a massive discount. I didn't expect to have it back, but she could have gotten more for it. It's fine. I just wish she would have valued it higher. Oh well, now I live in Seattle with my pup. We made the front page of r/Seattle too when we moved and have made a new life here. This is where the story ends. I'm not remarried, and that is fine. I still will never regret not moving to Ohio for love. I've accepted that love is conditional and that I would rather pass away in Seattle than live another day in Ohio. My new girlfriend happens to be from Cleveland. She wants me to visit her fam with her. I am not ready. And along the way, I've accepted that when you meet people online that they will always demonstrate the best versions of themselves. And that being at the front page of r/all, that it was a fluke and that I'll never experience that feeling again. So at least now I've learned to truly love myself and my pup, because we're all we have. If you've read this, thank you for your time. This is the end of an experience that started on October 11, 2018 when I needed a friend and r/all replied. I should add that I'm now online friends with a ton of Redditors, and that in itself was worth the experience. Story 13. Throwaway time. I was browsing Reddit because I was steamy one night and looking for material. I'm a woman. I saw literally the sexiest one I'd ever seen in my entire life. It was perfect. So I slid into the DMs and was like, hey, nice thing. He responded right away, and we stayed up texting together all night. By early morning, when we were done, lol, we just kind of kept the chat going. He was 26, I was 30. We lived 3,000 miles apart. Me on the West Coast, him the East Coast. We talked about what kind of cheeses we liked. I sent him a picture of this cute plate I have with birds on it. And I happened to be in the same line of work as his father, so he could hold a pretty intelligent conversation about my job. We moved from Reddit messaging to Kik, since I was still wary about giving a stranger my phone number. And we texted on Kik all day and all night from then on. Since we figured we had no chance of ever meeting, we were totally uninhibited. We bonded a lot, told each other things we had never told anyone else because we weren't concerned about making a good impression. I told him about my termination. He told me about his time in rehab when he was a teenager. We bared our souls for no real reason other than we just felt free. After about a week, we exchanged face pics and started talking on the phone. 2 months later, I moved across the country to be with him. Sight unseen. I had some prior connections there and had a professional license, so it was a dramatic move, but not quite as dramatic as it sounds. We finally met for the first time in a hotel as soon as I got to the East Coast. It was so much more beautiful in person. I crashed with friends while I looked for a job, found a good job in a nearby city, and got my own place. My dude and I have been together for almost 3 years now, and we're talking about moving in together this summer, possibly starting a family in the near future. We just love each other. Sometimes when we snuggle on the couch, I tell him, "Thanks again for posting your thing on the internet." Then he blushes and tells me to shut up and hits me with pillows. Lol. The only downside is we can never, ever, ever tell anyone in real life the true story of how we actually met. Story 14. This will for sure get buried, but this question was made for me. 7 years ago, I'd just gone through a painful breakup and decided to post some risque images and gone wild as a self-esteem boost. I got a lot of pics in response, but a few thoughtful or funny messages. I carried on a few conversations for a while, but they all fizzled out except for one. I kept private messaging that person for a couple of months on Reddit. Then we decided we would give instant messaging a try on Skype. That worked out so well that after a couple of weeks, we tried voice chatting. After a month or so of 4+ hour nightly chats, and after I'd fallen in love with him, and after exchanging pictures of our faces, we made a plan to meet. He was located about 6.5 hours south of me, so we made a plan for me to drive down there and spend the weekend with him. We absolutely hit it off. Started dating long distance. I drove down every other weekend to see him for 2 years, moved in with him once I graduated, and now we have been married for 3 years. Story 15. This will probably get buried because I'm late to the party, but here goes. I was casually browsing the Snapchat subreddit, looking for someone fun to have some conversations with. Went through a handful of people where conversations just end out after a day or so, sort of as expected. Never once considered it for anything more than finding someone interesting to just hold a conversation with. I messaged her, and when we got to talking, I could tell she was different immediately. She seemed a lot more engaged and down to earth than the other people that had dwindled. Despite the fact that she was literally inundated with messages from one single post, she chose to speak to me for whatever reason. We got to talking about our interests, hobbies, and eventually ideal nights out, days in and qualities in a person, etc. All of the above just started lining up between the two of us, and as of that same day, we started spending hours glued to our phones talking and cackling deep into the night. The conversations were just natural and laid back. We both felt comfortable sharing because there was no underlying pressure to impress each other, as we didn't expect anything more than a fleeting friendship to grow from it. We eventually started FaceTiming on a regular basis, for hours on end, learning more about each other and just having a good time. She lives 5,000 kilometers away, so we'd always mess with each other about buying that plane ticket and getting it over with. She FaceTimed me one night and showed me the non-refundable plane ticket that had been purchased a week or two after we had met, and I banked on it not being some sort of elaborate edited screenshot. The trip was set to take place around a month later, giving me ample time to prepare and get all my nervous farts out in advance. The days leading up to her flying out were exciting, and the day couldn't have gone better. I'd spent the better part of the month prepping plans and outings for when she arrived, and it all went off without a hitch. Our chemistry in person was as electric as any other platform I'd been chatting on for the month before. Now here we are, exactly 4 months later, 2 trips deep together, planning our third with a permanent 5,000-kilometer move in the works for the near future. Never clicked so well with a person before, and it really feels great. Thanks, Reddit. Story 16. Yes, we first made contact on Reddit in July 2015 and have been married since 2017. I made a post about online dating frustrations on r/OkCupid with an alt account. He replied and called me out on some crap. I DM'd him asking if he'd be willing to discuss things a bit more as his perspective was refreshing and the tough love I needed. I got to talking back and forth and the conversation quickly bled into other topics. We added each other on Facebook and agreed to Skype. Our first Skype was 6 hours long, 5 hours the next night. After 3 weeks of talking every single day, I flew from Canada to the US to visit him for the weekend. By the end of that weekend, our relationship was official. We saw each other every 4 to 6 weeks. I worked remotely, so frequent traveling was very doable for me. Within months of dating, we realized we would have to do an immigration-based marriage if our relationship was ever going to stop being long distance. With that goal in mind, we started extending each visit to be longer than the last to see how we handled living together and falling into a more normal life for them. 10 months after initially meeting, I was on my way to spend 6 weeks with him when I was stopped by U.S. Border Control. Apparently, I'd been visiting the U.S. too much. I was about to miss my flight, and out of desperation, I offered that my boyfriend and I were planning on getting married soon anyway, so none of this really mattered. Wrong move.
They instantly claimed I was trying to immigrate fraudulently and placed me on a 6-month travel ban. Crap. So at that point, we had a very steep learning curve about the right or fastest way to immigrate properly, which involved applying for a K-1 visa. It just switched to a remote job as well, so we decided to spend 6 weeks working and vacationing in Mexico together. And we also took an extended working vacation to the UK while waiting for my visa to be approved. We spent September to February without seeing one another. In February 2017, I immigrated to the US in a K-1 visa. Yep, like the 90 Day Fiancé show. We got married in April at the county recorder's office and applied for my green card. We're married to this day and living in LA. Things were pretty rough the first 1.5 years. It took a really long time for me to be able to drive out here because the DMV was being ridiculous, which left me feeling quite isolated. I lost my 2 closest friends within months of moving and went through a lot of very traumatic family drama. I was also diagnosed with PCOS, hypothyroidism, degenerative arthritis, and severe obstructive sleep apnea in 1 year. There was a lot of stress going on in my life, and my husband and I had a lot of work to do when it came to improving our in-person communication and learning to be a live-in married couple. With some counseling and a lot of will to make things work, we moved past that hump. The last year especially, our marriage has been thriving, and we've really begun to hit our stride as a couple. So yeah, that's our tale. Story 17. He used to post on Gone Wild Audio and had one of the sweetest, sexiest, and most beautiful voices I'd ever heard. And after checking her post history, I saw that we had a couple of other things in common, so I sent her a DM. Miraculously, she responded. I found out that she lived in the town adjacent to where I grew up. I was now many hundreds of miles away, unfortunately. But we talked and bonded and ended up falling for each other, despite trying to fight it. About 9 months after we started chatting, my mother passed away and I had to make a trip back home to pick up some of my things from her attic. So this young lady and I finally got to meet. It was crazy good. It was weird how it wasn't weird. It was like we were meant to be together. We both knew it and didn't deny it. We started a long-distance relationship and proceeded to see each other in person a few times over the next couple of years, because that was all we could manage due to our circumstances. It wasn't easy. Sometimes it was hell, because we both had our respective issues and challenges, but we were always there for each other, and that and the way that we felt about each other mattered more than anything. I made some changes in my life so I could be with her. There's an age gap. That would be just one of the things we'd have to deal with, but we both knew it was the right thing to do. Or I thought we did. Every time we had tried to break it off before, we were always drawn back to each other. Because of gambling a little during a past cruise I'd taken, I somehow got a ridiculous offer for a completely free cruise across the Atlantic, from Italy to the US. 2 weeks. I told her that I wanted to fly us there so we could take those 2 weeks to be together, truly together, and talk about our future, which included an idea I had about starting a business together in her dream field. She said no. She said that she needed to take a few months for herself. That was this fall. We haven't spoken in over 5 months now. I'm sorry if you read all of this hoping for a happy ending. Believe me, I was hoping for that too. Story 18. Bit late to the party, but here's my story. We met on r/TF2. He was known in the community for his absurd collection of rare in-game items, and he came to me to get some artwork for his in-game character commissioned. I completed the commission, we stayed friendly, and we played a lot of Team Fortress 2 and watched a lot of TV or movies together. Anyway, he realized he had feelings for me and told me as such, but I didn't feel the same way and didn't feel like starting up a long-distance relationship. We lived in different continents, so I rejected him. He took it gracefully, but I think he was depressed about it after the fact. But then, not long afterwards, I realized, oh crap, I actually really like him. So I made a little animation with both of our in-game characters and asked him out. Fortunately, my initial rejection didn't lessen his feelings toward me, lol. So we became a long-distance couple. We got a bit of flack in the TF2 community since we were both well-known in that circle, and some people interpreted it as oh, she's my video game girlfriend from another country. She doesn't go to this school situation. Lol. I had people telling me the relationship wouldn't last because they took it to be a shallow relationship, insisting that I was only dating him because of his in-game inventory. Despite that, people were actually largely supportive, which I appreciate. Anyway, it turned out that while he was overseas at the time, he actually lived in the same area as I do. Once he wrapped up his business in Europe, he came to the States and we got to further our relationship IRL. It's been 4.5 years and he's just left the house to go get me Taco Bell. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.